Hey there. Hi there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending where you live. Hey, I'm Coach Lori. I'm in for the next two classes. And I'm really excited to be here with you guys today. Do you guys need anything before we get started? I'm going to ask you a little bit about you and why you're in this course and who you serve and all that. But is there any logistical things that we need to talk about before that? Everyone good? All right. So I would love to, and do you say it Rita? Is that how you
Reader, yes.
pronounce it? Yeah, perfect. So Rita, tell me a little bit about you. What had you sign up for this course and who are you looking to serve?
So I live in South Africa. I did my ACTP a long while back ago,
Okay.
and I just decided to pursue my career in coaching full time. Things have changed finally in my house, so it's time for me to dig into my career. And I got investigating, look at what is needed, what is not needed. And in the end, I felt to dive back into a comprehensive program and to dust off and dust up all the skills required and needed before I go for my PCC exam. I felt that is what I want to do. So
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, great. And so who are you serving?
So I love life purpose. Life purpose has always been one of my greatest driving forces in life. Brought me through a couple of very dark days. So at the moment, the first round for connection is definitely going to be our chronic ill patients that feels worthless and lost and overwhelmed by a diagnosis. How to reconnect that with life purpose and what is the reason for a person to get out of bed tomorrow morning and and face the diagnosis basically.
I love that. I love that. All right. All right. All right. Christine, how about you?
Hi.
Hi.
Um, Rita and I are kind of on the same journey apparently here. I also did my coaching many, many years ago with WCI when Cheryl was still there. So that's how I met her. And then I got very sick and was not able to continue my coaching journey. So I literally haven't coached at all since doing it. And now I'm better and I have a full-time job, but I this is my passion. So here I am reorientating myself to the world of coaching and my skills, honing some skills again. And I am looking to serve families, but starting out with women who are struggling in their relationships and their role as a mother and empowering them to rediscover themselves and learn new boundaries in their relationships and with their children and make the very first impact to create a better family.
I love that. I love that. Well, you guys are up to some really great stuff. So it's an honor for me to be here with you today. We're going to go through the material and then scheduled Rita, you'll be coaching Christine for the second half of today's call. And Christine, just so you're not surprised, on Thursday, we're going to switch and you're going to be the coach. So, and you'll coach Rita on Thursday. Um, and so before we get into any of the stuff for today, a little bit about me. I have been a coach, gosh, I've been an official coach, a certified coach for 5 years, and I've coached probably for 12 years or so before I kind of knew what coaching was, right? And I am a physician assistant, and so I really go toward the wellness. One of the things that I have that really had me pivot into coaching was just like Rita is saying, I'm one of those people who got a really bad diagnosis, felt really overwhelmed by life, And I was like, if I feel this way, then I need to help other people. So that's what I've focused on, ironically enough, Rita, for the past 5 years, is just really supporting people with chronic illnesses and living their best life. And then I got re-diagnosed, and then it was like, okay, I believe in manifesting and like putting things in your space. So I was like, you know what? I need to pivot a little bit more. So now I'm going to go and I'm not going to turn anybody away, right? Like I'm not losing any of my clients or anything like that, but I'm going to pivot more into the whole mindset component of it and what that looks like. So, it's been quite the journey, and I really love doing this. And I think it's really a blessing that we all have this calling and that we're here to serve other people. So with that being said, that's a little bit about me. The way that I love to have class is interactive, right? Like I just don't like reading off the documents. Like it's so at any point in time, if I say something and you're like, wait, I have a comment on that, please speak up. I'm happy to just have a discussion around that. The only thing that I want to make sure that we do in this class today and on Thursday, that when I'm with you, is to make sure you get a break. So you'll see that around 2:10 we'll go and we'll have a break before we get into the coaching part. But anybody have any questions about anything you've covered up until this point? Anything coming up for you?
I do. I don't know if you know this, maybe only Cheryl knows. We're supposed to do a EQ, whatever you
The
call it.
assessment, the evaluation.
Yes, that's it. That's the word. We haven't received a link for that. Are we supposed to receive that by now?
So my understanding, if I remember correctly, the link should be in the workbook.
Oh, did I
No,
miss
no,
that?
Is it in
no.
there? Because I can't
Mm-mm.
remember. I can't remember if she sent it or if I could have sworn it's in your assignment workbook.
No, so
And then
Okay, I will look.
And then what happens is your results are going to be sent to you with a link through Cheryl.
Okay, let's look because I haven't done my assignment workbook. I'm barely surviving until I leave on holidays where I can get some of this done.
Yeah, no worries.
So,
can you guys
okay,
hear
hold
me?
on. What am I? Take the EQ assignment, go to apply, click the link in the invitation you received by email and
Okay,
complete the assessment.
hold please.
Mm.
Let me ask her. Thank you for that. I remember it being in there and I couldn't remember if it was linked.
And we haven't, I meant to ask her, but I didn't because my life is crazy. But I've looked in my email and my spam and I did not find anything.
Okay.
Maybe I should look again.
I'm gonna ask her right now so that way we just know. It's no worries. She's quick at getting back to us. So we'll
Can you
have that
guys hear
result.
me?
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's definitely not in our workbooks because I even put a paperclip in it to say, yeah, we're supposed to receive an email from Cheryl with the link to, look into that. So.
Yeah. So I just reached out to her and let's see how she responds. So if she did, then we'll have you guys look again. And just so you guys know, that assessment takes a while. So it'll take you about a good 30 minutes or so. So make sure that you're in a space where you're just able to dedicate that time.
Mm.
And it's a great assessment. It goes really in depth into a lot of your traits and like how you where you flourish, like where you have a lot of emotional intelligence, and then the areas that you just need a little bit more support. And the cool part about it is that you're going to get a breakdown of what that looks like. Cheryl's going to go over it with you on a one-on-one. And that way you guys can go through and do some brainstorming on how to improve that part of that score.
Okay.
So it's pretty great. Anything else? All right. So today we're going to talk about client agreement and coachability. So it's going to be, I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to be a little bit dry, but let's kind of together make it fun. And ultimately what we're going to talk about, there's two different agreements that we're going to have with our clients. The first one is the client agreement, where it's your contract with your client. And then you're also here, what's your coaching agreement, which is your agreement within your sessions. So I want to just make that really clear before, so there's no, sometimes people get confused about it, not saying that you guys will, but there are two different kinds of agreements. One that'll change with the call itself, and it may change in the call itself. And then what we're talking about today is going to be the importance of you setting up a agreement with your client. So, and then we're also going to talk about what does it mean to be coachable, right? Like a lot of times people have a blind spot of what it means to be coachable. They think that they're great at everything. They think that they're open. They think that they're motivated. And a lot of times when it comes down to it, right, they have that desire to be, but they actually, their behaviors are not actually that. So we're going to talk about what is that, what do we look for in that in our consultations? And also then what do we do if we find that somebody is not the best person for us to work with, right? So we're going to go in chapter 4, and I'm just going to, so that way you don't have to look for it. I'm happy to share my page here, so that way you see that. Chapter 4. Do you guys see chapter 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Nope, that's not it. Wrong one. Sorry. It should be this one. That's it. Perfect. Okay. All right. So I just need to get my screens all up in here. All right, perfect. All right. So part of what I want you guys to think about when it comes to your agreement, right? So you get on a call, you have your client, they know you go through the process of all that, you have your agreements, you have your, you know how to be effective as a coach, everything in your mind is that everything is clear, you've gone over it. And ultimately what we're looking for is successful outcomes for our clients, right? The more that we get things in a row up front, the better the relationship is going to be, the better the expectations that are set. So that's what we're looking at here today. So like I said, there's two types of agreements, right? There's going to be your overall coaching agreement, and then which you'll hear people also say that's your client agreement. And then there's going to be there's your client agreement, which is going to be the contract that you set. And then there's the coaching agreement that you have within your class, right? So we're going to talk about next class, the actual coaching session agreement. So today's just going to be about your contract, right? And we're going to spend a lot of time on each because they're both really important. And so we'll give you some ideas of what that looks like, what language you can add in there as well. So we want to make sure that our clients have an understanding of what it means to work with us. They have an outline. It's clear in writing what they can expect, and what kind of engagement that we're looking for as coaches. So why do you guys think that we would want to do that?
Well, for me, I think if we know what game we are playing, it doesn't help I'm playing rugby and the other person is playing tennis. So I think that's how I always think in terms of my contract, is that this is the game we're playing and this is the rules we have to stick to. Um, I always invite my clients also to say, is there anything that you would like to add into the contract so that it's a mutual agreement in the end? One thing that I do see that's very conducive for me is to, when the client gets it, that you are not there to solve it for them. You are there to literally stand next to them and just open up the space, just hold
Yeah.
the space. And
Yeah.
I think that is, I think people don't always know what coaching is, and they expect coaching to be therapy and coddling, a lot of coddling. And I think the contract really brings in the almost the next level of performance to a certain degree. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, absolutely. Christine, is there anything you'd like to add?
I think that summed it up just beautifully, actually. I haven't had to have a client contract yet because I got sick right after my course, but yeah, I look at it much the same way.
Great.
Exactly, actually.
Yeah, great. And so ultimately, what I want to add to that, right? So we're going to get really clear on expectations. We're going to get clear on, okay, this is how much money you're going to pay me. This is how much time we're going to meet. This is what I expect out of you. These are all your decisions, right? But also, if we take a step back from that, we also want to point out as we go through these contracts, like, are we good? Like, are you a good fit for me? Are you willing to abide by this contract? Right. So we want to make sure that our clients are a good fit. And as we're having this conversation, we're having this consultation, right? We bring them on in a consultation. This is what it looks like to work with me. And then this is, how things are set up for our relationship to see if like they're on board or not. Right. And then from that conversation, you're going to be able to start seeing like, are they open to create change? Like, are they coachable? Right. So I want to add that in there too. And this is going to happen before you onboard your client, meaning you need to get all these logistical things down before you're going to go ahead and then get them on your portal or however, send them any assessments or anything else that you're going to do with them, right? So once we are able to make sure that we're a match, right? Like you covered last week. So this is like, part of like you've gone through the ethics, you made sure they're coachable. Then you're going to explore like the specific goals. You're going to think about certain methods of your coaching that you're going to want to implement. You're going to talk about the scope of the relationship. We want to capture all of that in this contract. So, and again, you're still going to keep that ear of like, is there going to be a problem moving forward? Right. We want to just kind of like chat about everything. So there's no surprises later on. There's nothing worse than having a client who's then like, well, you didn't tell me that. Right. Because that breaks the trust in the relationship. So we want to make sure that it's a collaborative a process for both of us. And once we know that they're coachable, then we could go into the agreement, right? And we collaborate with our clients to do that. We want to make sure that we're using emotional intelligence on our end to really understand and align with our clients' goals and ultimately really make sure like they're coachable, right? So you'll see, I will say over and over and over again, you'll hear me talk about this coachability, right? So we've defined it in this chapter here. So I'm just going to kind of keep this up for you guys to see. If it's distracting to you, let me know. I could take it down and we could just all be face to face, right? Again, collaborative. You let me know what you need. We want to make sure that our practices are ethical, but also that our client is going to be coachable for what we're doing, right? So coachability has two meanings then. And that client, there's nothing wrong with the client. There's nothing wrong with you as a coach. The thing is we want to make sure that we're a good fit. If we're not a good fit, then your client's not going to be coachable. And it may not have anything to do with them and their resistance to what you're trying to accomplish. It just means that you guys aren't a good fit and that you're going to most likely want to refer them out. So like I always love when I get in these sessions and I hear somebody doing something similar as what I do. Right? So like when Rita, you said that you help people with chronic illnesses, I'm like, here's my sister. Here's somebody that I can refer out to if I'm not that person, right? So I want you guys to have that listening. Like there's more than enough people to go around in this planet that there's not a competition. Ultimately, look at this as a tribe of people that you're starting to connect with that can support you and support people that may not be a good fit for you. There's nothing worse than coaching a client who is not fun to be around, that you're just not a good fit. You need that to happen once. You're going to try to make that square peg fit in that round hole. Like you're going to like, no, I got this. I got this. And then you're pulling your hair out when you know you're about to go meet with them. So we've all done it. We've all thought that this person's going to be the exception. And then you realize really quickly that it's not, right? So this is why we go over it, right? So we want to make sure that the personalities align. If not, we need to find somebody else that they may be able to work better with. So it's really important to have these consultations. These consultations are usually free. Sometimes people charge for them if they're giving them something, like they're going through an assessment or they're doing something. I personally have all of my consultations free. And it's just one of those things that I want to make sure that we're a good fit. There's more of a benefit for me to keep it free of charge than it would be to actually charge for that. But that's at everybody's discretion. So we want to make sure that, we're going to set boundaries as well within the relationship of our coaching agreement and that our expectations are managed. So most coaches will, we get so excited that we have a client that we will put up with anything, right? We'll be like, yes, sure. They want to talk to you only on a full moon on this day at this time, right? Like we will allow that to happen. And it's awful. Honestly, it's really awful because then what ends up happening is you make concessions and then you build your client list and you don't know what agreement you have with who and what that looks like. And then you get totally confused. You get on the call and then it's like, wait, oh, right. Oh, that's right. I need to do that with you, right? Like there is the fluidity of what we do is kind of lost. So we want to manage those expectations. And one of the big things is if we're going to set an expectation for our client, we want to make sure that we fulfill it. If you're setting different expectations for, different clients, you're doing different things, you may not be able to fulfill on all of those. So the best example that I can give you on this is, I just totally went blank. Hold on. I got to remember my example. So let me back up. The agreement is going to tell you how many sessions you have, how long the sessions are going to be, how much money they're going to cost, how long, right? Is it a 1 month contract? Is it a one-time deal? Is it a 6 months, a 12 months, right? And it's going to be really clear. One of the things that one of the things people offer, that's what it is. It came back to me. One of the things that people offer is like, I offer unlimited emails, unlimited text messages, right, through an app. And I also allow them, if they're in like a crisis mode and they need me, to be able to text me to see if I'm available, right? And one of the things that might happen is 90% of the people will never text me, they'll never email me in between sessions, unless I ask them to, unless they're my accountability, like I'm accountability for them. However, you may get somebody, and this happened to Coach Cheryl, where she literally had somebody who emailed her 12 different separate emails overnight. So instead of putting it all in one email and the questions that they had, every time they had a thought, they'd shoot him an email. So she opened up her email box and she has 12 emails from this person and is like, it completely overwhelmed her because that's not how she likes to move forward, right? So she realized in that moment, she never set the expectation of like, okay, I'm going to give you unlimited emails, but my expectation from you is that send me all your thoughts in one email. Don't literally text me 20 different times and like make it into something that doesn't work for me. Right? So if you're going to provide unlimited emails or unlimited text messages, if you want to have a caveat on that of like, okay, look, I'm only going to, so for me, I have an open policy that I'm like, guys, if you need some support, just text me. And like, I'll be in the middle of the grocery store and I'll be sending them, questions for them to think about, right? Like thought-provoking questions on how to move them forward with whatever crisis they're dealing with. And I'm okay with that. I don't have a timeline, but having thought about this now, I probably should say like, okay, you can get a 15-minute text message session off hours. So that way is really clear because there have been times where I literally had a client be like, hey, can I call you for a second? And they're trying to get a hour-long session with me. Right. And I'm like, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. So that's what we want to talk about today. So when I say that to you, what comes up for you? Is there anything that you can see for yourself that you're like, oh, I need to like make sure that that's part of my conversation?
Yeah, for me, definitely boundaries of what that would look like. So I'm very different than you, Lori. I have date nights on Friday nights with my husband that are seriously protected from
Love that.
any type of electronics at all. No phones, no TVs, no nothing. We're
Yes.
usually not even in the house, and there's certain times that I really protect my time. And
Mm.
so I think that that's something that I'm going to have to kind of write out my time zones and what that looks like for me and how much time I'm willing to give and have it really clear in my agreement.
Yeah. And this is the thing, you get to set the rules. If unlimited like text messaging and email is not your thing, then don't offer it.
Well, couldn't we offer it though in between these hours and these hours?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, that I would
Yeah.
offer it then. I wouldn't be in the grocery store texting people. I'd be shopping in the grocery store. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and for you, you're okay with that. And that's where all of our differences
Yeah.
come out, right? So I think for me, I would more likely say, okay, between these hours, Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday or whatever, go ahead, text me, call me, whatever works for you, email me.
Mhm.
But, there's certain times that are just off limits. So that's something to consider, creating programs and packages and just coaching sessions.
Yeah, exactly. And to be clear, for me, um, I have it that I'm like, you can text me and you could like text me, leave me a message, or, send me an email, and I have up to 24 hours to respond. So like for me in the
Oh,
grocery store, if I just see something come up real quick and it's an easy thing for me to readdress, for me it's okay. Like you don't have to do that. But for me, it's like easy for me to just shoot off one question of like, how would that make you feel? And have them think about it and go on their way and like come back, as opposed to them having to wait for me. Right. So
yeah.
there's kind of like a balance there that however it works for you is absolutely okay. But that's why we talk about this, right? To kind of think about, what do you want it to look like? Like
And
if
I
the
think
grocery
also
store,
too, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead. I'm just saying, like, if you're in a sacred space and you've said, like, look, there's going to be time, like how I reference it for them is like, look, I'm going to have coaching calls that I'm not going to be available during those times, because just like with you, I give them my undivided attention. So they're not going to know what you're in the middle of doing. Right. So
Mm,
it removes the pressure of having to get back to them right away.
yeah.
And so I just say to them, like, look, I promise I'll get back to you within 24 hours. So
Yeah, and I
sorry.
was going to mention, I think too, now that I really think about it. So yesterday, for instance, um, I didn't get off my computer till 9 p.m.
Mm,
My husband had to work a little bit late, and I thought, oh, I'll just get a little bit of work in. And I was meeting with clients at 8 p.m. at night on Zoom, and guys, just let's just get it done right now. And they're saying, yeah, let's do it. And I guess really this comes up for me. I have to start looking at my own boundaries of where I'm giving too much in other areas to be
mhm.
able to make more room for coaching too. When I look at that, I'll have to practice more balance in my own life to maintain it all.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Um, so perfect. That's exactly what this class is for, to just kind of open up that thought process. So the agreements that you guys are going to set in place are really important. It's going to be, we're at the end of this chapter, there's an example of what language to use and what that looks like. And there's, in part of the homework, there's a client agreement for you guys to create for yourself, right? So, and what I like to tell everybody is like, leave everything in there for you to submit, to Cheryl at the end of class, right? Like go in there, make it look pretty, do all that stuff. And then if something doesn't resonate with you and you want to remove it for you to use it, then go ahead and do that, right? The only thing that is in there that I'll tell you, don't remove, is there's a portion in there that the client is choosing their own actions and it's not part of the coach, right? Like that we're not forcing them to do that. Um, so the one thing that we also have to do is manage their expectations on it. And so, we're going to get really clear on what the agreement is. And then we have to get really clear in communicating the expectations. So, if you see that people are just really pushing boundaries with trying to get you one-on-one off hours, then that's something, especially with your next client forward, to really make sure that you're communicating that even more clear. So how this will work too is that when you put I'm so sorry, landscapers are here. Is that really loud for you?
No, I can't hear
Okay.
anything.
Okay, good. He won't be too long. It always happens. So the one thing that you want to do is you're going to give them this agreement. They're going to go over it. They're going to sign it. They're going to give it back to you. And then before you do anything else, you're going to actually pull that agreement up and get a verbal confirmation of like, okay, this, like, any questions on any of this? Like, so this is when we're meeting, this is how much, this is how you're going to pay me, this is right. And make sure that it's really clear, because there's going to be that one person that's going to be like, oh, I didn't know that. And then you're not going to be able to say, well, we went through it. And then you don't have a leg to stand on. Right? So it sounds like really like hand-holding, but there's going to be that one person where it may be problematic. So when we talk about coachability, what we're referring to is their willingness to learn, adapt, apply insights, right, during the coaching process. So we ultimately want to know, like, are they going to take action? And are we the person that's going to be able to move them forward? Right? So we want to know if they agree to take action, are they going to follow through? I also like to look at feedback, right? Like, how do they want me to provide them feedback when they're not following through with something? And we're going to talk about this a little bit too today. Look at what's effective for them. Do they need a different style of coaching? Like, what does that look like? So a coachable person is somebody that will be a good fit for you, and that your conversations are going to inspire them to move forward. So again, they've come to you because they can't get out of their own way, is how I like to describe it. So they need somebody to partner with for them to be able to be like, okay, I got it, and get that confidence to move forward, right? So how do we do that? How do we make sure that they're coachable? During our consultation, we're going to ask them questions around it. And so what that's going to look like is ultimately asking them, like, how did you reach goals in the past? Like, have you ever had something that you really wanted to do and you never accomplished it? Like, what got in your way? Like, what's a time that you were super proud of yourself for being really successful, right? Like, questions that are going to show a different side of them. Or like when you're in the middle of doing a project at work and you are stuck, what do you do? How do you work around it? What resources do you need? Right? To kind of like understand what their personality type is and the things that are going to help them. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So then the other thing too we want to do is make sure that we understand if they're able to, and how do we best provide feedback. So a lot of people think that they're open to feedback until you give them feedback that they don't want.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's like, you're the one to blame. So part of the conversation that we have up front in our consultation is, okay, look, there are going to be times where I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to give you some feedback that you may not like. How do you want me to do that? Right? So then I would have them think about people in their life. What's a really great example for them of somebody giving them feedback where they didn't get upset, where they were open to taking that feedback. Right? And then I would be like, okay, tell me about a time where you had somebody give you some feedback you didn't like. What happened and what was it about the feedback you didn't like? Right? I think about my husband. I love that guy so much. But there are times where he gives me feedback. I am not in a mindset where I want to hear it. And he just has that thing where I'm just like, would you leave me alone? Right? Whereas with other people, I might be very generous and be like, oh, thank you so much for that. Right? So we want to see what fires them up a little bit. And also, how we could use that to our advantage in moving them forward. Does that make sense?
Mm.
I see
Yeah.
your wheels spinning. Anything you'd want to share around that? And then the other thing too, is that I want you guys to think about the context. Most likely what we're going to do is twofold. One, when they don't follow up on their action plan, and we want to know how we're able to say something to them. And then the second thing is when they're going against their values, right? So like, how do they want to be called out if like family is a value to them, but they're at the bar 5 days a week? What's the best way for me to tell you that right now you're not putting family first? Right? So like, Christine, you're literally, your value of family and your husband is super clear to me, because you said Friday nights are non-negotiable. Right? So then if all of a sudden your Friday nights that are non-negotiable become an optional thing and you're doing something totally different that doesn't make sense for you to be doing at that time, when you said that that was sacred time for you, I need to be able to be like, Christine, what's going on? You told me a long time ago that that was sacred time, and now you're not doing that. What changed? And that might be totally fine for me to be that direct with you. Some people need to be coddled a little bit. So that's what we're trying to figure out. Right? Like for me, like I'm a CrossFit junkie that absolutely loves right? Like I love tough love and it pushes me forward. The more leeway you give me, the less I move.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're trying to decide. Make sense?
Yeah.
Anything come up for you guys? All right. So we're then, that what ties into that too is responsiveness to guidance. So guidance here is a we're not telling them what to do, but we're supporting them in what they want to do, right? So we're not trying to change that. We're not trying to get in a realm where we're going to tell them what to do, but we're talking about instances where they're looking for resources maybe outside of the coaching session, right? And you're supporting them with finding those resources, right? And then we want to look like, how committed are they to taking action? We want to ensure that that we're supporting their learning, that that we're able to help them take the conversations that we're having in our sessions and actually implementing them in their life, right? We want somebody who's also on the same page as us and that can see the vision we have for ourselves and that they're just as committed, right? That's what we do as coaches. So we want to make sure that the foundation for trust and effective communication are there. And ultimately what that does is we want to make sure that everything is compatible together, like that we mesh together. The number one thing that we're out for as coaches is having them affect change in their life. So then they come back and they tell you, you know what, Rita, you're freaking awesome. And you're just awesome. Well, you're awesome to begin with, but you're awesome also because they got something of value from you. And that's what this whole thing is, setting us up for success and giving them that value. So when we talk about compatibility, right, we want to talk about whether or not you're the right fit for them and if they're the right fit for you. So as a health coach, I'm all about wellness. I'm all about positive thinking, positive mindset, setting up goals for, you know, body movement, fitness, and, meal plans and all that stuff. I'm all about that. If somebody comes and asks me, hey, I want to run a marathon, I'll be like, okay, yeah, I've done that before. I could share my experience with you. However, if you want to run a marathon and break a record and like go to the Olympics, like I'm not your coach for that. So, Cheryl also gave a good example of a spiritual coach who is Christianity versus Muslim, right? So you're not going to go to a Christian coach if your belief is Muslim, right? Like if that's where you identify. And so what we want to do is then from this point on, if you know that you are a coach that wants to support people in running marathons, and break records, then your entire content, social media, emails, conversations, all of that. Oh, that's very kind. I love that.
I say thank you for the tea.
We want to make sure that all of our social media, everything that we put out there in the world is going to be very clear as to, you know what? I'm your marathon record breaking coach. I'm your coach for your spirituality when it comes to Christianity. Right? And if the reason being we want to do that is to also make sure that before the client gets on that call with you, they're super clear what kind of coach you are. So if they're looking for, somebody to support them in their religion and they're Muslim, and you're a Christianity coach, like they're not going to come to you. We don't want them to come to us, right? Any questions around that? So where that go? Oh, sorry.
Now, for me, it took a while to realize that, in the end, you only got your clients as your resume. And if you don't trust that every person has a coach and you make sure that the right people gets to you, you actually must be willing to put a little black, not successful next to your name and gamble with that. And I think trusting to know that if you're not the coach, there's somebody for this person. But are you willing to gamble with a black mark right up in front because your coaching agreement is not in place?
Yep, exactly, 100%. And it doesn't mean that that there are not instances where you can go and go around that. Meaning, my first client ever, even though my conversation was, I'm a wellness coach, I'm a wellness coach, I'm a wellness coach, I had somebody come to me and was like, look, I'm really struggling in my business, like in what I want to do with my life, career-wise. And so I remember having a conversation, just being really straight, being like, look, I'm not a career coach. I'm not going to be able to help you with your resume. I could look it over, but there might be key points that I won't be able to give you. But if you want to have a conversation and you want to talk it through, I'm more than happy to do that. And so she still signed on as my client, knowing my limitations. And that was her choice, right? We still found her a really great job. Like she was really clear. She just needed some dissecting around that, right? But kind of keep that in mind as like, if she's willing to do that, and I've been really clear, like, look, that's not my areas of experience, and I can refer you out to somebody else. And they're coming back being like, look, I really love your style. I want to just give it a try. Then that's on them to do, right? So that's the conversation you want to have is like, look, these are my limitations. This is what I love to focus on, right? Like if you're looking for a really crazy, workout, like I'm not the person that's going to write your programming, but I will make sure you get to the gym every day, right? So that's what we're looking at. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that if your client is not aligning with your own philosophy, with your own goals or values, right? If there isn't a personal connection there, we want to make sure that there's a conversation around that, right? Because we, especially when it comes to personal connection, we want to make sure that our clients feel understood and that they feel supported. So if they don't do that, if they don't feel supported, right? They may continue on as your client because they feel obligated. And some people, I'll be honest, some people there is a penalty for completing your coaching agreement early. I literally had signed up with a coach for a year at a ridiculous amount of money a month. And then I got sick. I got diagnosed again, and I had breast cancer, right? And then I got diagnosed as metastatic breast cancer. And they wouldn't let me out of my contract. She's like, you have to pay out the rest of your year. And mind you, I was only 4 months in. And I was like, what? I'm like, no, I'm telling you that I'm not going to be able to do the work that I need to do that I signed you up for. And they're like, but we have a year-long contract. And they wouldn't let me out of the contract. So I sat with it. I sat disgruntled for a couple of months. And it wasn't until it really burned me that I was giving her a lot of money a month. And it had me feel like she didn't understand. It had me feel unsupported. It had me feel that she was only in it for the money, right? The list goes on and on and on and on. It changed my relationship with her and how I saw her. And it wasn't until I literally had a doctor's note saying, blah, 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 that she submitted to her attorney that she then cleared me of the rest of my contract without penalty. But I shouldn't have had, knowing that I've known her for 5 years, and it took her about 3.5 years to get me as a client, right? If your intuition wasn't screaming, I don't know what, right? For them to do that. And I supported her when she was maybe making $10,000 a year as a coach. And now she's making much more than that, right? We were colleagues. It's very disappointing.
Mm.
So that's what we're trying to avoid, right? And so make sure that you talk about like, okay, this is what my, this is, if we find that this doesn't work, this is the kind of conversation I want us to have. This is how I want you to communicate it with me, right? And let's have a conversation. Some people will do a month penalty. So say you cancel now, you've already paid for August. They may have a month penalty for September, especially if you've scheduled out that far. And then some people are like, you know what, let's complete here. And then if people pay in advance, sometimes people will give them a refund. So that decision is up to you and what you feel is like with you and like what has you sleep at night, right? Anything coming up for you guys around that? All right. So all of this then will come down to managing expectations. And I've said it over and over and over. But ultimately, bottom line is we do not want them to expect more than what we said we were going to do. We don't want our clients to think that we haven't fulfilled what we said we were going to do. We can give more and go above and beyond without them expecting it. but we want to make sure that we hit that minimum of what we said that we were going to provide. So there's some in this chapter, and why I have it up is because you'll see that there's some sample text in here that so right, it just says in our coaching partnership, we prioritize coachability and the engine of your growth. As your coach, I'll provide constructive feedback and guidance toward tailored to your goals. Your role as a client involves embracing this feedback, actively participating in the process, and taking necessary steps towards change. Compatibility between us is equally vital. Our initial consultations will focus on ensuring that our values, communication styles, and expectations are in harmony, setting the stage for a trustful and effective coaching relationship. By signing this agreement, we both commit to fostering an environment where openness, mutual respect, and dedication to your success is paramount. So in that chapter, and I hope it's big enough, I'm sorry that if it wasn't, in that chapter, we want to then, we're just ultimately telling them, this is the expectation. This is what you can expect from me. You can expect for me to give you feedback. You can expect for me to give you some guidance when needed for resources. You can expect me to just be your coach and your cheerleader. So that way you're successful. Right? And so that's in the packet of homework, you're going to have a document that has all this language in it. And again, see what works for you, see what you want to, you can do whatever you want with that document. All right. So, and then there's next steps, right? So the next steps is we're really just going to encourage our clients to self-assess themselves. So that way we could see, like, are you ready to take this on? And let them tell us, like, yeah, I'm all in, or no, I'm not. Right? Ultimately, by us doing that, by us addressing, them being coachable, our compatibility, right? We might also want to take a look at and see if there's any assessments we want to give them, right? Is there a vision exercise we want to give them, a goal exercise we want to give them? And ultimately, we want them to feel good, and we want them to feel confident that they made a right decision for working with us, right? So, any questions about any of that? Let's see where we are for time. Okay, so let's go through a couple of questions. Evaluating coachability, right? So we're in an initial consult with the client. Alex has been very successful in his career, but now he feels stuck. So he's considering a significant career transition, but has expressed skepticism about the coaching process and is unsure about what coaching can offer. So during the conversation, Alex is a little bit defensive, and he challenges the effectiveness of coaching based on a previous experience. So how would you respond to him based on whether or not he's coachable? So it sounds like you've had some challenges, experiences in the past. What are you hoping to achieve differently this time around? B, coaching may not be for everyone. If you're already doubtful, maybe this isn't the right time for you to start this process. C, I understand your concerns. How about we set some clear, measurable goals for the first few sessions to see if coaching can make a difference for you? Or D, why don't we dive into the coaching process and you can decide for yourself if it's effective or not? How do you think you would respond?
A.
Who said that? Christine?
Mm.
Or yeah. Rita, do you agree?
I do agree with A.
Okay, why do you guys think that?
Because I want to see how open he is to change. I want to see what his perspective is on the coaching process last time.
Hmm?
And, whether he takes any sort of accountability for that process. And it will help me determine how coachable he is this round if it's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And Rita, is there anything different for you?
No, exactly what you said.
And so the one thing too to take a look at here, right, is like, so A's the better answer, right? We want to kind of like sort through exactly, as Christine said, see it was a if it was with the coach that they were with. Are they not coachable? Is it, are they committed? Like, what does that look like? Like, what did the experience leave? Like, how was he left in that experience? B is going to be just, you're cutting him off at the knees, right? He's never going to believe in coaching. He's never going to move forward with that. You're not even giving it an opportunity, right? D is going to be not right because you're literally not hearing and acknowledging what he's saying to you. You're like, well, forget all that. Let's just move forward anyways. So he's stepping into that space with all this stuff and you haven't cleared it. So the only other answer that would be an option, and I would probably start it with A and then move to C, is what I would personally do, is being like, look, okay, I get all that. So why don't we just like give it a shot, see if I'm the right coach for you. Let's give this another chance. And if it doesn't work for you, if I'm not the person, I can either refer you out or we could just cut ties. Right? And kind of leave a lot of freedom around it. In knowing that you're confident enough to be like, look, I'm not that person. I could totally help you out. And it may be you, it may be Alex, who's just so close-minded about everything, that then you have the opportunity to be like, Alex, look, this is what I'm seeing from you. And I just want to really be straight. You're struggling right now because of X, Y, and Z. And like have them at least get to that awareness and you could still be done. Right?
Yeah.
As far as question 2 goes, establishing compatibility. So you have a session with Jamie, a new client, really eager to start. They share a lot of personal information for you, and they expect the same level of disclosure from you as a coach, right? You prefer to keep the focus on the client and maintain a certain level of professionalism, right? You want to keep some distance in there. How should you address this and ensure compatibility in the coaching relationship? So the answers are A, you're going to say, I'm going to keep my personal life private. Let's focus on you and your coaching goals. B, you could say, while I appreciate your openness, our coaching sessions will be most effective if we concentrate on your journey and how I can support you in reaching your goals. C, I'm happy to share my personal experiences if they're relevant and can facilitate your growth. Shall we start by discussing what areas you'd like to focus on? And D, I could recommend another coach who might be more open to sharing personal stories if that's what you're looking for. How do you think you would respond? We could even say which ones we wouldn't want. Which ones would you eliminate?
A and D.
Unless D, only if you're like dead set against not sharing your stories. Like if you don't want them to know about you at all, then D might be appropriate for you to be like, look, I'm not going to do that, but I'll give you somebody who might. It's not the best because then you're just really cutting that off and they may not go seek another person. But I
For
agree.
me personally, I would answer with C.
Why is that?
Because it's true. If it was something that was actually relevant and I thought that it could help move that client forward, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But it would probably be pretty darn rare that would ever actually happen. However, I wouldn't say it would never happen, but I'm also then, when they say, shall we start by discussing what areas you'd like to focus on, they're shifting right away back onto the client. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what I would want to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Rita?
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes clients can feel very ostracized and very isolated.
Mhm.
And if it serves them and the purpose of the conversation, and you could say, listen, this was my experience, and that is helpful. Um, just be very wary of your client's needs and the client's journey. And I would say that must ultimately always be the focus of the session. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and that's why B is a possible answer. Right? So saying
yes,
like, hey, like, let's focus on you right now. But I agree, me personally, I would do a mix between B and C. Like, hey, look, I'm here for you, but if it's going to help you to hear a little bit about how I experienced something and how I handled it, and that's going to help you move forward, then I'm happy to do that too. Right?
I have something to share.
Yeah, Chrissy.
For me, I think that a lot of coaches, typically their niche will be something that they've already overcome,
Yeah.
something that they've struggled with. And I would think that their marketing messages and copy and content on their websites and what they're putting out there already really clearly states to the client that they've already probably been through something a lot the same,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why they would ask them something like that.
Mhm.
But I think the client would probably already have a really good idea, and the coach has probably already shared some of their experiences. And the other thing you could always be able to say, something, also on my website, it shares an awful lot of information about me and what I've been through, and you're welcome to check that out. And boom, away we go on something else.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Agreed. And I agree with that. Okay. So then coachability in the face of resistance. Question 3. So in a coaching session, Sam consistently find reasons why the proposed actions toward their goals won't work. They have a pattern of shooting down their ideas and seemed resistant to trying new approaches. What approaches could you take to foster coachability in Sam? So A, if you continue to find reasons why things don't work, we won't make much progress. What's one thing you're willing to try? B, it seems like you're not ready to make changes. Maybe we should pause our sessions until you're ready to engage more productively. C, it's important to consider why these suggestions may not work for you. Can we explore what's behind this resistance and perhaps find alternative strategies that resonate with you more? And D, we've come up with a lot of options, but none seem to fit for you. What do you think would be the best approach for this situation? What do you guys think?
D.
Who said that,
Or
Christine?
C. C or D.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. And again, this is a really good example. Like C and D kind of say the same thing, but they're just in a different tone,
mm.
right? So it's also really important about how you want to communicate with people, right?
Yeah, I think what it really does is it puts the ball back into their court, basically,
Yeah,
instead of, to me, it's kind of a mixture of, what, obviously you're not going to work with me here and find something that works. Here's the ball. Tell me what's going to work without being a dick about it.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, do you want to move forward or not? Like, where are you? Like,
You
why
know?
are you wasting my time? Like, let's go, right? Agreed. All right. So those are some examples of like really what we need to be cognizant of as coaches when we're faced with that. And a lot of times where our emotional intelligence is going to kick in by when we don't make it personal, right? Like we're not trying to just get them to the end goal. We're really caring and empathizing with them as to like, okay, what do you have going on right now? Like you said this is a priority, but you're not doing anything that we kind of come up with. Like, where are you at? Right. And just really getting clear with them. So the rest of this chapter is creating a client agreement. So ultimately, you know, purpose of coaching. So this client agreement is, again, everything we talked about: clarify purpose, logistics, focus on the coaching relationship. So it's everything you're going to want to go through in your consult. So purpose is coaching, right? Like the roles and responsibilities that you each have. Logistics, in other words, like when are you going to meet, how long are you going to meet for, how you're going to meet. So it's going to be every Tuesdays for an hour on Zoom, right? Confidentiality, that you know, it's a safe space, they can share anything with you. Feedback mechanisms, how and when you'll provide feedback. Client personal information. So what information do they need to disclose in order for them to work with you, right? My background as pathology, it allows me to get patient records, and I'll go through and explain to them exactly what it means of what they have, what they're dealing with. Why do they feel a certain way? Like I correlate all that. I can't do that unless they want to give me their medical record, right? They like their diagnosis. I can't do that otherwise. And then assessments and tools, letting them recognize that there's assessments and tools that you work with, and that you're going to choose what works for them. And also, being that this is an emotional intelligence course, you know, we're going to talk about how to have empathy with them attaining their goals or the lack of them attaining their goals, right? Like, how do we communicate that? What's the best way for us to get present to how important that is to them and what they're feeling if they're not achieving it? And then also when they are achieving it. Self-awareness and defining the scope. So setting boundaries within the agreement, like we talked about. Social skills and communicating. So having effective communication in the client agreement. Being transparent with them and understandable. Regulating emotions during negotiations. It's not personal. Like when I couldn't cancel my contract, right? Like I took it really personal because she was my friend before she ever became my coach. Like I had a really hard time with that. And it was hard for me to feel like she didn't get that. Right? So as a coach, we need to kind of get a sense of what's going on there as far as emotions. And we also need to keep our emotions in check about it. And then motivation to serve the client's best interest, relationship management through the coaching term, and then self-expression and setting expectations. So we went through all of these. And then here is an outline of how to have a consultation call. So like they give some specific examples, evaluate coachability, see if you're a match, and if you're not a match, resources. In other words, you know, referring them out or kind of talking through that. Any questions? Clear?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, and I just got your chat there, Rita. If I could hear you, I could hear you. Okay. Okay. So anything that you guys need before we take a break? But does that help you a little bit with like, okay, these are the things you need to think about and good? Okay. I tried not to make it so dry. You're still awake, so that's really good.
You did a very good job. Thank you.
Of course, I tried. I try because trust me, it's really hard teaching into that too when it's just like so dry. Okay. So let's take a break. Let's come back at 30 after. And then we will have Rita, you'll coach Christine. Your coaching is going to be about 25 minutes, no more than 35. And then we'll just have a conversation about how it went for you and beyond. Sound good? We'll go through the breakdown for the ICF. Sound good?
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Good.
See you
Okay.
guys in a little bit. All right. Mm, all right. Y'all need anything before we get started?
Sorry, what was that?
Thank
I said, you need anything before we get started?
Nope.
No. You have a topic?
We have a list of 10 topics that we had to do before we
good.
started this.
Yeah, perfect.
So,
Okay, beautiful. All right. So Rita, you'll coach Christine. And need anything before we get started?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, good. Okay, so it is 2:32. So around 25, 30 minutes. All right. Okay, floor's yours.
Hi, Christine.
hi.
Thank you so much for taking time to focus on yourself.
Thanks for being here to help me do it.
So, Christine, what are we focusing on?
My dogs. That's what we're focusing on today. So I can hopefully focus less on my dogs in the future.
What's up?
What's up? Is that what you said?
Yes.
I have two dogs that I love with all my heart. Um, things were, I don't even know. So I got these two dogs, a male and a female, only for the sole purpose of breeding them. Um, and then they were very expensive. So gratefully, we got insurance on them, like health insurance and all this stuff. And then I wasn't working at the time full time. So I was literally going to make it my profession to breed these dogs. And I was just starting out with two. And then I went to, well, our female turned out was diagnosed with a genetic condition. So it was no longer ethical to breed her. I had promised myself the only time I would get animals in the future was if they brought me money instead of me having to spend money. I ended up having to take her to two surgeries on both of her back legs, 6 months of rehab every week, and daily stretches to the tune of $10,000. Gratefully, we only had to pay two from our insurance. So once all that happened, I realized, okay, this is not going to be lucrative for me, and I got my job. Well, now I have a job with two dogs that are little that need to be trained. And I don't know, I find I have no time to do it. I mean, I know how to do it. I just struggle with creating it. No, I'm lying. I'm not struggling with just creating the time to do it. I'm struggling with creating the drive to do it as well. It's so much work. Yet, not having them trained is so much work. I feel, I don't know, stuck and lacking any sort of focus or commitment, which is not like me at all. And I think I'm also really busy in other areas of my life, but I'm on Zoom a lot. And when the Purelator man comes to my house, which comes a lot, maybe I should order less stuff. My dogs go crazy and it interrupts my Zoom meetings. And that's probably the primary thing right now, because it's really difficult. There's lots of other reasons, but I have to problem solve this because it's causing me daily grief.
Okay. So we've got 25 minutes, and I would like to ask you, what do you want to achieve with this 25 minutes?
Well, I'm not going to sell my dogs or get rid of them because I love them and they're my dogs, they're my kids, and sort of. So I guess I'd like a plan of action that's going to work within my schedule to commit to training them.
How important is the training to you?
Well, I don't know. I think it's dependent. I think when the pure later man is there, or when my dog sees rain outside and he thinks, I think I need to crap in the house today instead of outside, at those moments, it's extremely important to me, like a 10, a 50 on a level of 0 to 3. But then when those things aren't happening, my resolve wavers, or when they're being really cute, and then I lose that level of importance.
If you need to weigh the level of importance, what is coming up more? The training that you need to put in place?
More, I'd say training them definitely comes up more because right now they're in a playpen because he's refusing today to poop outside because it's raining out today and I won't let him run around in my house. And that's the other thing, actually. So I have things in place so they can't misbehave, right? Like he won't poop in his playpen, but I don't want him to stay there during the day. I mean, yes, it's a nice space. They have food, water, beds, but I don't want that for them. I don't like it. And I don't so yeah, I would say that it definitely comes up more. I have barriers in my house. This is ridiculous the more I speak about it. I have it's like barriers that slide up and down on the wall so that I can keep them in each room with me so that way he can't poop anywhere. She would never do it because that's not her language of communication, that's his. So I don't want those on my walls anymore. And really, if I didn't have all these things in place, I would go crazy all day, every day. So really, it probably is. It's really important, actually, really, really important that I do this. I don't know how to quit losing this resolve. I suppose if I got rid of the playpen and I got rid of all those things, the barriers, I would be in a position where I absolutely had to train him. It's not really the female I have to train so much, it's the boy. I mean, I have to train them both, but it would look different if I didn't have those things. So it's pretty darn important I do this. And it's more important than not, I guess. Yeah,
You used the word, this is ridiculous. What comes up for you?
it is ridiculous. You know what's ridiculous? I used to have really big German shepherds. My dogs right now are little snacks for German shepherds. But I had these big German shepherds and they were really mean and scary looking and they were trained to perfection. It was just brilliant. My life was easy and they were no trouble to be around. They weren't, this is the difference. They edified my life in such a profound way. And these dogs don't. And it's not their fault, it's my fault that they don't edify my life. Half the time they're a pain in the ass to me when they're not being cute. Sorry, I got off on I don't even remember what you asked me. Oh, ridiculous. Yes, it is ridiculous. Why is it ridiculous? Because I know how to train dogs and I'm competent. And I'm very judgmental when it comes to pets being untrained. With all pets being untrained. When I see somebody, and it's awful because I'll see somebody walk by and their dog's really untrained. I'll be like, wow, look at that dog. And then I'll look at myself and go, oh my gosh, look at your dogs. What are you doing? You know, I'm very judgy about it. And I don't even know if I want to lose that judginess. Actually, I want to use it to my own personal advantage and train my dogs and not be judgy towards other people, I guess. I don't even know. So yeah, there's that.
May I reflect something?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
What I hear is that you are judging yourself.
I am. All the time I do. I view myself as lazy, as undisciplined, because it's not that I'm incapable. I'm extremely competent of doing this. But that's what it is. I do other things. And to be honest, my male dog is difficult. He's difficult to train. The female is not. So I just don't want to deal with the difficult. But yeah, I am. I'm hard on myself about it.
Okay, 10 minutes. Have you found that your plan is changing for this session?
Pardon me?
Have you found that the plan is changing for this session?
Maybe a little, yeah. I suppose I need I need to be less hard on myself and I need to train my dogs. Yeah. And maybe I do need to be less hard on myself. I'm doing my course. I work full time. I have 4 lots I live on that need to be maintained. I have a garden that's absolutely huge. And I help other companies, which I'm getting rid of right now, but I also do a lot of volunteering. And so I was volunteering a lot of time with 3 other companies doing all their social media marketing and their website building and all of that. So I'm just now passing the reins to those companies and training other people to do it for them. So maybe I do need to be less hard on myself. And maybe the other people I see down the road, maybe they're overwhelmed with life too. And at least they're out walking their dog. And maybe it doesn't matter either way, whether I think that they're overwhelmed or not. Maybe it's none of my freaking business what's going on in their life, and I just need to focus on my own. And maybe I need to gain some inspiration from them. And when I see them walking their dog and their dog's misbehaving, instead of worrying about their dog misbehaving, I need to be saying, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I should go walk my dogs. I sound snooty because I feel kind of snooty right now, actually. I feel irritated with myself.
I can hear that. In the past, if you had a really difficult challenge that you didn't want to do. How did you connect to that?
I wrote about it. I made it meaningful to be able to follow through and to stay committed. And sometimes, if it's unusually difficult, I will write it on my computer, usually a pros and cons list, and kind of what it'll mean to me at the bottom when I succeed. And if it's really difficult, then I'll just post it in multiple areas of my house to keep it meaningful in my mind, which would probably help in this case. As I said, when they're cute, I don't care too much. And, but I need to care about it all the time, not just not just when because I'm going off of how I feel for the moment is what I'm really doing. And I need to not do that. What I need to be doing is doing what's necessary, regardless of how I feel in the moment. Hmm.
So how can you add meaning to training your dogs?
Well, I think I probably need to do it in some steps, actually. I leave next week for a week's holidays, and my dogs are going to the sitters. So I have some time without them. I think during that period of time, I have a lot of time then. And I'm going to do some of my course then and a few things, but I think I need to figure out at that point in time what's meaningful, an A and B side of things. And I need to look at what's realistic. So I guess I need to make sure that I have these other companies off my plate. And I'm trying to get them off my plate before I go. Hopefully I can. Sorry, what'd you ask me?
How can we add meaning?
Oh yeah. Yeah, how can we add meaning? See, I'm right away, I'm just going right into as soon as you mentioned that, I thought, how can I add meaning? Well, I add meaning by the A-B side of things. And then I went right into problem solving it for myself. Because once I have the meaning, then I'm going to immediately get into action with problem solving it. And maybe it's a good idea when I think about it for me to start training them as soon as I get home and make room for that as a main priority. And those other companies come after that. If I'm not actually done with them, well, that's their issue, not really my issue. My issue is making sure that my own life is in order first. And it's probably the best time when I come home because I have time to really reflect and to say, why is this so meaningful to me? And put a plan of action together. It's not really set a time for dog training. And everything else just comes after that. I set a plan the other day for drinking more water for myself, and that's the only thing that can't come after that. But I will have a good 2 weeks of my water intake before that. I'll already be solidifying that. So yeah, that's what I need to do. And I think I need to, as a part of that AB thing, really move back because you had mentioned, about I mentioned my old dogs for whatever reason. You had prompted me to mention that. And when I think about that too, I think I need to really look back at my old life with my old dogs and really specific things that how them being trained so phenomenally impacted my experience with them and my life as a dog owner.
Yeah, and that would be basically one of the last questions that I would say. What would you get out of this? What would you get out of spending time with them?
Well, I would get consistent positivity, consistent joy, and also, really importantly, I would feel good about myself. I feel like I'm failing them. Because I mean, if I went out right now, yeah, they're all cute, my boy's only 5 pounds, and it's like, oh, look at him. Is he a puppy? No, he's full grown. Oh, he's so cute, right? But if he starts misbehaving, nobody's going to target me and say, what a crappy dog owner. They're going to dislike my dog. And that really bothers me that my unwillingness, inadequacy, whatever we want to say it, my lack of training these dogs affects them negatively in so many different ways. Mm. And that probably needs to go on that AB sheet too. Because right now they're in a playpen that's like 5 by 5 because I'm not doing what I need to be doing for them. So it's actually affecting their everyday right now, even if other people aren't around, which I hadn't considered till right now. I don't know why I hadn't, but
I hear
can
something about values.
you do. You really, really do. Um, when I am tasked or blessed, well, however you want to put it, with nurturing anyone or anything, it's something I've always taken very, very seriously. I have poured every ounce of my being into being a parent, for instance. And you're right. Um, I think that the lack of dog training is me going against my own values, which bothers me a tremendous amount more than I realized until this very moment.
Do you need to explore that more?
Pardon?
Do you need to explore that more?
Nope. I sure don't. I need to I'm just writing. Um, yeah, I guess I can look at all the other things, and all the other things I've brought up and considered, but really at the very root and the very core is I'm going against my own values and I am displeased with their outcome over it. I'm embarrassed by their outcome, displeased. All I can think of many words to describe it, but I'm not okay with their outcome. And even if I'm not involved, like if I don't have my feelings involved, like, oh, they're so cute or anything, I'm upset with their outcome and I need to fix that.
You said in the beginning of the session you would like to end with a plan. How much of that did you accomplish?
Hmm. Well, it's interesting. At the beginning of the session, I wanted to come up with a plan to train my dogs. And I did not come up with a plan to train my dogs, which is good because what I ended up coming up with was, I mean, I needed more meaning and more reason than just the plan. And I didn't recognize that at the start of the session. But through the session, I've realized that that's what I needed. And gaining that understanding that I'm going against my own values um, creates it's the word I'm looking for, commitment to do what I need to do. Because really, I'm smart. I can come up with the plan on my own. I guess what I really needed through here was to connect it to my values, which I hadn't considered before. So I didn't get out of the session what I originally came in to achieve, but I got what I needed.
Do you want to be held accountable in any way possible for today's short
Nope,
session?
nope, sure don't. I don't think I need to be. I think that connection of going against, I'm an extremely principled person. My values drive my life. And so that is enough for me to that just propels me right forward with my plan of action when I'm gone. And I won't do it right now for this week, but it's going to bug me actually for the week now. Um, I'm probably going to have to just pick at it a little bit every day, and then I'll really dive into it when I'm gone. So that's a good thing because before I could have ignored it forever. And now I can't ignore it if I try. Thank you.
Glad, pleasure. I'm glad to hear the completeness. I'm thankful with you. There's still a lot there. Are you okay?
I am. I'm good. I'll just have to take a few minutes. Um, but I'm good. And it's a good realization. And I'm relieved and excited and emotional all at the same time. But it's good and there's nothing bad about it. So thank you.
I honor you for it. Thank you.
Rita, my question to you is, what had you complete the session when you completed the session?
Ask that again.
What had you complete the call when you completed the call?
I felt a bit pressured with the time constraint. I would probably, if there wasn't a time constraint, I would just hang back a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Christine, you good? Okay. Good work. Really good work. And I invite you both to just look at it again to see, as the coach, to see areas where you're like, oh, I could have done this there or that there. And then Christine, I want you to, if you are willing to do that, if you guys are willing to do that, I would love for you to go back and take a look at your engagement in it. That you had some pivotal moments of I'll say the word emotion, but it's more like kind of like a little confronting, a little bit like realization, a little bit, right? And like, I would love for you to go revisit that so you could get present to that again to be able to go a little bit deeper in that. Because the time did constrain that a little bit of like really being able to explore that for yourself. And I feel what you got to is so powerful, but there's even another layer for you there. If like, so I'm inviting you to kind of go and take a look at that. So, Rita, tell me how this call was for you.
Still use the word we. Stacking question. It's really hard for me. I intentionally asked about past experience. I know it's not ideal, but because Christine and I know each other a little bit, I wanted to bring her into her current journey. And I felt by asking the past question, I could invite her where she's really in a journey of comparing and finding her new voice and values and connecting with them. So that was the reason why I asked her the past question, so that I could invite her to say, this is how you've always done this. Is there a possibility of opening the door to the new that you are desperately wanting to? So, yeah, and yeah, I felt a little bit frustrated with the 25 minutes. But all in all, she surprised me. I didn't think we were going to reach something so meaningful and so powerful. And I feel very honored that we could just start taking off a small little layer and a couple of questions for her.
And so what are you most proud of?
When I realized it's a value, it's a value issue. It's not a dog issue. It's a value.
And then what would you do differently?
I would really try not to use the word we anymore. I really want to stop stacking questions.
You really want to stop what? Stacking?
Stacking, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Um, Christine, how was this for you?
Um, it was a really good session for me. I didn't really, I just felt normal and everything until she asked the question about my values. And then I tried really hard to hold it together. But I just felt like if you guys weren't here, I literally would have just cried for 10 minutes before I explored anything else. That was really quite profound for me. I felt the end rather awkward. I didn't know if we ended the session or if we were just sitting in silence for a reason. I didn't really grasp that part of it. Um, I really liked the questions that were asked and how, she prompted me to really think about my situation. But that question about the values, that was a doozy.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
It just
So
opened up the doors for me. I found it almost difficult after she asked that. I found it kind of difficult to even focus on our session. Like I literally could have just said, "Okay, thanks, have a good day, bye," and just sat here on my own after that and just gone on with holy cow, all this stuff now has entered my brain regarding the connection of my values that I had never even considered before.
awesome. Because that was noticeable.
Oh,
So,
was it?
so my
Yeah.
question to you is, in that moment, what would you have needed?
Oh gosh. Um, uh, I probably would, I don't know, maybe I would have needed a really direct question of what is this bringing up for you? I would have needed more time, first of
Mhm.
all, in the session
Agreed.
to explore what that brought up for me. And I would have literally been, okay, it brings up this and this and this. And that would have been really helpful because I would have written it down all on this sheet of paper. And later on, when I'm exploring this, when I'm gone on holidays, I would have, it just, it would be stuff I wouldn't have to recall later on.
Mhm.
So that would have really helped.
Yeah.
But I also felt the time with the time issue that I wouldn't have had time to share all of that anyways.
It would have gotten you started. It would have
Mm-hmm.
gotten you started, as you said. That's why I invited you to go back. That way you could get yourself re-present to that moment based on the questioning.
Mm-hmm.
And your answer may be a little bit different, but that's also then with you having some more insight, right? Like you're gonna marinate on this for a while. So other things might come up for you.
Yeah.
Uh,
But it's going to be really helpful having the recording and I'll listen to this again when I'm there so that I can recall all of that, you know, to
yeah,
remember it all. Cause yeah, awesome. It's
yeah,
funny. I've done 2 coachings with Rita and both times she made me cry.
yeah, she's good. She's good. She's good. So this is the thing. Like this was a great session. Rita, do not feel pressure to stop at 25,
Okay, thank you.
right? It's 25 to 35 for this exact reason. So if you had that 10 more minutes, because I have to admit, like, I'm really honest, right? So I had to admit that I was shocked that you said, okay, well, we're at time
Hmm.
because she was so emotional that I was like, wait, what are you doing? Wait, give her some space, right? Like, and I don't mean it like that, but like, it's easy for me to say that here because I'm not in your shoes, right? Um,
Mhm.
so the one thing that I want you, and this is a great lesson for all of us, this isn't just a Rita thing, is one, making sure that we can be with emotion, right? Because even before the values, there was a part where she got really pensive. Like she was in her brain and you saw her computing and you gave her a little bit of silence, but I would have prolonged it.
Okay.
And see what else came up for her in that moment. You got to gold, right? That may have allowed her to go even deeper because she was marinating on something in that moment. And then you asked her a question of, I think that's when you talked about the training. You asked her a question where I felt like if you go back, you'll see that moment where give a little bit more because she was still processing and then you dumped a question on her, right? But your questions were valuable. They were great questions. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't even hear you stacking questions.
Me neither.
So just kind of take a look at that again. Like it wasn't present for me. I don't know, you know. The one thing though is that you did have some close-ended questions in there. So catch yourself. It's just a matter of awareness. We all do it. How would you be able to do that? So instead of saying, do you need to explore this more? Right?
Mm.
Ask that as a, would you like to explore this more? Or what would it be like for you if we explored this more? Would, like what will come up for you if we explored this more? That way it's that thought provoking that she's looking for, right? And but overall, I love the fact that you didn't interrupt. You gave silence. There was just that one little area where I was like, oh, I wish she would have made that a little bit longer to see what came out from her thinking. But I loved your empathy. I loved you like being with her on that journey. Like, I didn't know where Christine was going to go with that. And then when we got there, I'm like, there it is. And that is from both of you. One, it's Christine being open, but Rita, that's definitely from your questions for sure. So when I say this, what comes up for you guys? And Rita, do you remember that moment where she was kind of like thinking about it before the values? You may not because being in
meaning.
it. Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel about this feedback?
It's very valuable. I was petrified to have this feedback. Thank you very much for constructive and for, yeah, I really feel this was good for me as well.
And why were you petrified about the feedback? I don't want you to feel that way.
Well, I sent my first coaching transcript and recording to Cheryl, and I think you do feel judged, you do feel worried, you do feel, was I good enough? I think it's natural.
Yeah.
And the way that I decided to reframe it is if I challenge my clients to be open and get real, then I need to be willing to challenge myself to be open and get real. And just as much as I care and just as much as I want to catch my clients, just as much I must be willing to use the feedback to become a better coach.
I love that.
So I decided to really connect it with meaning for myself and development so that I can be a better coach.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. Okay. So going back to the competencies and before I do this, Christine, anything else come up for you? You good?
I'm good. I just feel emotionally totally drained.
Oh, I get it. I get it 1000%. So don't worry, we're almost done. We're almost done. And if you want to sit there and kind of go through and start brain dumping what you need to do, that's totally fine.
That's okay. I'm already on. I have 2 back-to-back meetings like right after this, so I'm already trying to get ready for that mode.
Yeah. So as far as the competencies go, Rita, you definitely focused on 3.3, which is the importance and meaning, right? Like you really stayed with her on that. You also really addressed like what needs to be addressed with her. I found that you were empathetic. So 4.2, you did that competency for sure. You also were coaching the person, right? Like 5.1, you definitely proved to be doing that. You were curious, your silence and pauses were on point, except for that one time. So take it as a positive, right? Like that was really great. You definitely used her language. So as we're going through the competency 6, like you were exploring her words, the emotions too, right? I wrote down judging yourself, right? Like, so you were like exploring what those emotions were that were coming up. You did not interrupt, which was like amazing, right? That's so hard to do. And then you did ask a question about what benefited before, but I really put that as questioning about like what's current, right? Even though it was the past, it's still related to the present. And then you definitely expanded the topic, right? Like you were able to take a topic that was a face value, right? A surface level coaching one, and really went deep with it. So that was really good. A few close-ended, like we talked about. I'm just going down the list, so it might be repeats. And it doesn't mean anything. The client definitely talked more. You definitely provide some concise language. The one thing that I want you to look for is that close, right? So going ahead and you did ask about accountability. It was a close-ended question, but it was asked. And then the one thing that I would love to see you what's the word I'm looking for? And I don't know if I'm just blanking right now, and if I didn't hear it, and you might have done it, and if I'm forgetting because we've been talking, is your close. Did you summarize everything for her at the end?
No,
Yeah.
no.
So make sure to be like, you did get her, what's her biggest takeaway, right? She provided that to you. But definitely make sure to be like, okay, so at the beginning we talked about this. What we really uncovered is this.
Okay.
And then like the action plans. So one of the things I would have given her with the lack of time or that pressure that you felt is I would have just invited her. How I would have left it is like, Christine, I'm so proud of you for this work that you've done today. I could tell that it's really something that's impactful to you and really means a lot. One of the things I'm going to invite you to do is take some time on your own to go through and look at, all these areas where you're saying you're displeased and you're embarrassed and like how you're against your values. And if you want to share that with me, please do. Like, just send it all to me in, like, I use Voxer, Telegram, like, or an email. If you want to share that with me, like, everything that comes up for you, just kind of like provide that to me. And then we can create something new from that on our next call if you're interested in doing that. Right. And then that would have helped close that conversation because she was like left in this hyper aware state. And then you're like, adios, see you later, right? Like, so it's a good, I'm not saying that was like that abrupt. I'm just being funny. But one of the good ways to bridge that is be like, look, we don't have time, but I would love to, do this offline. And that's why I provide unlimited emails, text messages, all of that. Like, people are on my Telegram, like they blow me up all the time with this kind of stuff where I'm like, look, I want you to sit in it, be with it, and what comes up for you, just shoot me a message. I'm not even going to respond, but just like let me know what comes up for you. So that way we're on the same wavelength. Right.
Okay.
And then that would have
Thank you.
helped you just kind of get more like not such an abrupt like close on that. And then that allows that connection point because you had such an emotional connection together that allows that to continue. And then that's like building that trust, that rapport, like, you know. And then the only other thing is that would have completed your session. And then, you know, I would have invited the homework and then be like, I would love to know what's your biggest takeaway. Like Christine heard it, but as a coach, we want to know what their biggest takeaway is because of we think we might know what that is, but we really have no idea what that is unless they provide it. So that's a measure for us. So when I say all that, guys, it like what comes up? And again, this is why you're in this class, is to just get those little takeaways from doing this.
What comes up for me?
Yeah. Because you're going to be in a hot seat. You're going to be in a hot seat on Thursday. So
I know it's awful.
it's
I'm
good.
so stressed out about it. Oh
Oh my
my
God.
gosh.
Come on now. Have
Um,
you not met me? You
no,
met me.
honestly, you know what comes up for me? It's all I'm just sitting here thinking is, wow, she has so many great ideas. This is incredible. I need to know how long you've been a coach. That's really what came up for me as you're speaking. Yeah, I'm just honest. That's where I'm at. Like you've obviously been a coach a long time because I'm listening to all this stuff and I'm going, holy cow, this is crazy.
I got first certified in 2019. I think I went 2018, 2019. And then I ended up getting my master coach 2 years ago-ish. Honestly, it's just from doing this kind of stuff. Right? Like it's by you sitting in here and like always being in this conversation of like, where can I improve? Where can I improve? And it's also making the mistakes, right? And honestly, where I come from is like, okay, what do I need? If I was Christine, what would I need? Right? If I was Rita, what would I need? How do I want to communicate it? And what do I want it to do? So I'm the biggest critic on myself. Right? Like I love feedback, but then I'm also putting myself in your shoes of like, okay, so I just had this like huge epiphany and I know that I would not work on that. What do I need somebody to ask me to do? And so I love staying connected with my clients in between sessions. It's what has us go really deep, really fast. Like they know I'm always there, which is why I provide unlimited text messaging that most of them don't do. But it's like when I need to be tough love with them, they know that there's a reason why I'm doing that because I'm super supportive. That when I'm like, wait a second, right? Like they're like, oh shit, Mama Bear's mad. Sorry for the language, but do you know what I mean? And it's not that I'm mad, but they're like, oh. So as you guys go through this process and you're going to do your buddy coaching and all of that, right? You two are going to get to know each other a whole lot. I invite you to, if you ever need somebody just different to coach, come find me. I'm happy to be your client, right? Just stay open to the learning, right? Because I feel like coaching is like yoga. There's some days you are spot on and you're able to stand on one leg unwavering, right? In like tree pose, you're like good. And then the next time you go, you're like falling over and you can't even stand on your 2 feet. Right? It's day dependent. So part of what I do is I have a ritual that I know that before I come to class, like I know how long I need to turn my phone off. I know I need to go on do not disturb. Like there's all these little things I need to do in order for me to get really present. I do that too with coaching. Like, I don't have any hard conversation before I walk into a client. Like, I literally called my husband before class. I'm full disclosure. Ask me anything, I will tell you. I called my husband as I was eating my soup to just do a 5-minute check-in where he literally sat and dumped on me for 15 minutes about all this stuff that he's dealing with. But I never listen. Anyways, and I sat there and I got off the call and I was like, why does everybody dump on me right when I need them not to? Because I literally started the call with, hey, I'm about to get into class. I just wanted to say hi and remind you that I won't be available for the next 3 hours. And then he was like, "Bup, bup, 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 bup." So part of what we're going to teach you here too is like little tricks on how to just clear, 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 clear. And I just continuously cleared so I could be present. So I'm saying all of this in a really winded way of I'm no different. I just literally stay focused. And I literally have a piece of paper with me at all times next to me that when I start thinking about something else instead of being with you guys, I'm just writing down what I need to write down so I could stop thinking about it. Right? It's just little hacks. And I do the same with my client. I still use pen and paper. And in the margins of my paper, it's the stuff that I can't clear in my head that keeps coming up while they're talking. It's the questions that I would want to ask. It's the things I want to go back to. Right? Like leverage resources. Does that help?
Yes.
Right? Like my notes are crazy. I don't type my notes for that reason. I go back in and I type them in after. Because otherwise my brain is all over the place and I'm not present. And then you'll miss like those golden nuggets. So summary, 1, what do you need for you? And offer that for people and see if that fits. 2, just constantly be present and do whatever you need to do in order to really get present. And 3, use this as a tool to get some awesome feedback from different people who don't know you, right? And like, we're not here, and this sounds really bad and I don't mean it in a bad way, but I'm not here to be your client and I'm not here to be your coach. All I'm here to do is to make you a better coach. So like that attachment for me isn't there, that I'll be just really honest. You know what I mean? And so when I say all that, we have a couple minutes left and I promise I'll let you go. But where are you? You in a good place? Okay.
Yeah.
So between now and Thursday, think about what you guys need. Because I'm with you one more class, right? So think about what I can provide to you in our next class that will make all the difference for you. Okay. And I'm happy to stay if you need it, but I know, Christine, you need to go.
I do. I have a meeting in 1 minute. So I'm gonna head out, but if you guys are still around, I'll catch it on the recording
Okay.
later.
Hey, good
I'll
to
talk
meet
to
you.
you
Good
later.
luck.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Rita, do you need anything?
No, I just want to thank you. I think it was really great. I was wondering because I can get very lost in detail. Do you think for a personality like me, it could be conducive to basically have a little of a template and like closing questions specifically to remind myself 3 or 4 questions that we can kind of use?
Yeah. So what I do, and I've done this, this might be helpful to you. Here it is. I'm just going to show you this if that's okay. That I took. Oh, is it once, twice? What's happening? Sorry, my computer's going a little nuts. Yeah. So this is what I do. And especially when it's a new client or I'm not sure how our coaching call is going to go, if I'm like feeling a little unsure, if I feel like I'm all over the place, if I'm like struggling to center myself to coach, I always have this on my desktop. Okay. This is my little cheat sheet. So what I have done, I took the framing model. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
So I took the framing model, and this is just like the first part of it, of all the steps, right? But here's the
Yeah.
framework. And so those are my questions. If I ever get lost, I'm like, I pause, I give it a hot second. I no longer feel like I need to fill the space.
Mm.
And so then I'm like, okay. And so I let my client hang out in some silence, and I just sit here and I'm like, okay, well, I asked that. Okay, I'm somewhere around here. And then this is all of it. So how do you feel about the progress we made, right? We talked about that. We also, what's your biggest takeaway? What feedback? What can improve upon? So these are all the potential questions. And also you're going to go for your PCC, right? So these sheets, these outcome sheets, these questions come from that sheet. So maybe something like that might help. Is that what you were saying? That's how I interpreted it. Okay.
Yeah. Are you comfortable sharing your cheat sheet with me?
Yeah, it's in the first chapter. I just took that first chapter model and framework, and I just have it in an Evernote. And I removed so there's two versions of it. There's what the setting the stage and what that means. Like there's a definition. I just took that part out and I only put the questions because I was getting lost in the definition.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it was great to meet you. So definitely I'll see you Thursday.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.